like my bronze statue, and like the ballroom, and I've been honored way yonder beyond my expectations.
Even Lee Robertson is amazed at how his life turned out.
I wasn't a very good high school student, and I wasn't a very good college student, but I managed to get through all of them.
The native of Calhoun, Kentucky says he had no idea what he would do after high school, but it turns out plans were made for him.
6 months later, Pearl Harbor was bombed. 6 months later, I was in the service.
With beachhead landings in New Guinea, Morotai, and the Philippines, Lee recalls his 3 years of service in the U.S. Army with great detail. When his time ended in December of 1945, he finally arrived home on an icy Christmas morning.
There was ice on our porch, and I nearly fell down. I come near getting killed on my front porch than I did in New Guinea.
College was never something Lee thought he could afford. That is, until a friend mentioned the GI Bill. The very next day, the two drove to Bowling Green to sign up. After graduating from Western in 1950, Lee was working as a teacher and coach in Park City when he crossed paths with a former neighbor while living back in Calhoun for his summer job.
And I said, who in the world is that? That little old gal next door, my neighbor, I went down there and checked, and it was Joyce.
After they married in 1953, the couple moved back to Barron County before landing at WKU in 1960, when Lee was named Director of Alumni.
We had one alumni club, that was in Muhlenberg County. 6 years later, we had 52.
He held that position for 25 years, but didn't stay retired long. Dubbed Mr. Western by former President Gary Ransdell,
that's a title I'm really proud of.
He served in numerous roles, including the job he still has to this day in philanthropy and alumni engagement.
Something about the job just fit me.
With this week's View from the Hill, I'm Amy Bingham.
This month's distinguished veteran, Lee Robertson, the floor is yours, sir. Make sure you speak into the mic.
It's a right impressive group. When I heard your roll call, I don't know that I have ever talked with this much of a distinguished group of people. I may panic up here. If I do, I'll run.
You'll be all right.
I am to talk about Western Kentucky University. More than that, I need to talk about the war. Well, most of it you saw on there, I guess, but if you detailed it, and when I graduated from high school, Calhoun High School, in the last of May in 1941, and it was 32 in that class, big high school, and we sat around the day we got our diplomas and talked about what we were going to do, and it's the first time that all of us felt a little bit responsible. And hey, this world's moving on. Am I keeping up? And what am I going to do? And then you leave, and you know you'll never see all those people again. It was kind of a emotional time. But it was the truth. And you know what? This is a little sidebar, but that class of 32, Calhoun High School, 1941, I believe I'm true when I say I'm the only one living. But you can understand that when a guy gets to be 100 years old. And I'm still working, by the way, and Patty and I have talked about that before. I seriously believe in 1985, when I retired after 25 years in alumni affairs and placement services at Western, if I'd have gone home and started twiddling my thumb, I would not be here today. And I choked down. But be all right, Mona.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
The Thursday night, I ran through in 10 minutes my 100 years. And I really had to hit the highlight. But in some kind of electronic system, and I'm not one of them, I cannot turn on a computer. I used to tell them when old Gary Ransdale was the president, and people would say, Lee, you got that computer sitting there on your desk, don't use it. I said, my emails are yellow legal pad, long hand, and they're called Lee mail. And I said, if you'd go in the president's office today, the only thing you can find on his desk is Lee mails. The rest of your stuff is in some kind of a machine. But when I got out of the service, I got to thinking about what I was going to do, and this is a true story. J.C. Bubby Blancett had been decorated in the war. He's my buddy. He's a couple of years younger than I, from Calhoun, and he'd been a fighter pilot. He saw me sitting on my front porch on a Sunday afternoon, about April or May. It's a little warm, and he said, Lee, let's go to college. I said, man, I can't afford to go to college, and I never was a very good student anyway. I don't know that's for me. He said, you ever hear the GI Bill? And I said, no. He said, well, they'll pay for your college and give you about $70 a month to live on. And I said, let's go. So that's the rest of the story. And that was in the fall of '46. I went to Western and fell in love with it immediately, and that love has grown deeper through the years till I'd hate not to be around it. I just feel good about it, and I've changed 2 or 3 jobs. I coached their golf team. I directed the Glasgow campus. I was alumni affairs and placement service, and now they gave me a title. I'm a special assistant to the vice president for philanthropy and alumni engagement. Now, you need a title like that when you get to be 100 years old. I can't spell all those words. But let's start after I graduated from high school and wondered what I was going to do. As you saw on the screen here, the Pearl Harbor was bombed on December the 7th after I graduated in May the 30th of that year. So it wasn't long till I didn't have to worry about what I was going to do, because the next day the draft board, I could talk an hour about draft. How in the world did we get so organized in the United States, the draft board? And first thing you know, I was drafted, put into service, caught a bus out of Calhoun to Evansville, Indiana. Evansville, Indiana, trained to Fort Benjamin Harrison, Indianapolis, inducted, got shots in both arms and both hips, threw some clothes at me. Only thing they ever asked me what size shoe I wore. The rest of it they just tossed to me. Caught a troop train out of Fort Benjamin Harrison for Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and didn't know I was going to be that close to home again, and put me in the Armored Division, went through basic training. And out of basic training, they said, Lee Robertson, you're a tank driver. And I don't know how they decided that, but that's what I was, and an EM medium tank, EM3A1 Sherman. Left basic training, Tennessee maneuvers, the combat training in Camp Barkley, Texas. Called a troop train to Vancouver Barracks in Washington, and they called a USS Cote Baru, Dutch ship was changed over to a troop transport. 60 days later, I landed in southern New Guinea. 3 weeks later, I was in combat. Made 3 beachhead landings in New Guinea, established that country, got the places where we wanted to establish the beachheads, Mauritania, the Netherlands, East Indies, more like a tropical island you saw in the movies than anywhere else I was. And we were supposed to really have it tough there. We landed and there wasn't a Japanese on the island. They'd only gone to Halmahera, and I knew I'd been in there long enough to know that it wasn't going to be that tough when General Douglas MacArthur waded ashore ahead of us. I knew. I said, this is the place we need to be. Stayed there about 3 months, and then we had a big convoy to go back to take over Manila again, as MacArthur had promised them. We shall return, and we did. And on January the 9th in 1945, we landed at Lingayen Gulf, and it was a big landing. That's Luzon, the island that Manila was on. Lingayen Gulf was probably 70 miles north of Manila, and there was a national highway down to Manila. So 8 months later, Manila was bombed. They one time called the Pearl of the Orient was a trash bin. When we got through, it was disastrous, and it was terrible for it to be that way. But we were out east of Manila at a place called Batangas, and we were preparing to invade the homeland of Japan, and they dropped the 2 bombs, and shortly thereafter Japan surrendered, and the 44th Tank Battalion called a LST to Japan. And when we went in Tokyo Bay, every few feet it looked to me like 16-inch guns, and I thought, man, we never would have. We'd have lost more U.S. soldiers trying to invade Japan if there's still a war going on than we lost in the 2 bombs we dropped. But I was there from last of August to the first day of September. And first day of September, I called a aircraft carrier to San Diego, California. The 15th of December we landed. I was there 2 or 3 days, and the troop trained to Fort Knox. Got to Fort Knox on the 23rd, discharged the 24th, went to the depot to catch a bus to Owensboro, Kentucky, 18 miles from Calhoun, my hometown. Ice on the road, so they moved us to the train station, and on the trip on the train from Louisville to Owensboro, there was a little gal that had grown up and was working in Louisville, and she remembered me and knew a little bit about what was happening, and her mom and dad were going to pick her up in Owensboro, so I bummed a ride to Calhoun, and that's when this you showed a while ago. I had my duffel bag, and if it hadn't been for it, I'd have broke my neck, I guess, when I slipped down on my porch. But at 5 a.m., Christmas morning, my brother Sam was 101st Airborne. He's 15 months older than I was. He was wounded in the Normandy invasion. He got home 2 weeks before I did, and he was healthy. My sister spent her time making bandages and gathering up scrap iron. The 5 of us, that's a pretty good Christmas morning. So I've talked too long?
No, not at all.
Well, that gets me through the service, and that was December 45, and then here comes 1946, and again, what am I going to do? And that's when you've heard the rest of the story. I went to Western, and I don't know what made Western fit so, but it sure fit, and it still does. And just before I went to Western, Mr. Diddle, the legendary coach, 42 years at Western basketball and half that time baseball, and he'd seen me pitch a baseball game for one of those Sunday league teams, and I was pitching for Morgantown, and we were playing Bowling Green on the Western's diamond, and Mr. Diddle saw me, and I had the best game I'd ever pitched in my life. And he said, Lee, he called me Robbie. He called me Robbie, and he called me a river rat. He thought I was from Morgantown. He said, river rat, and said, won't you come for baseball? And I did. In February, before we started training in March, I was playing a basketball game, and a big guy jumped into my left knee and busted it all up with everything you could do to a knee. And we didn't know how to fix them then. And so I never was as effective, but 3 years I was on the baseball team. And I'd do that again if I didn't get to play, just to be around E.A. Diddle and listen to some of the things that he said. And then you'd step back and say, what in the world did he say? And it was always, he was dumb like a fox. But today, I'm there. I'll go to work tomorrow. I'm now working in that research and fundraising. I go and come as I please. And I've told the president and the vice presidents and other people that at the end of this year, I'm going to analyze and see. I don't want to hang on. I'm productive now because in fundraising is relationships. You people know that, but building relationships, and I know the people. And as you saw the other night, there was over 500 people that came there to that birthday party they had for me in the new Alumni Center, and they had it in the Lee Robertson Ballroom. And right before you went in the Lee Robertson Ballroom, there's a life-size statue, bronze, of Lee Robertson. So I don't know how I got all these honors, and I've said to everybody that asked me that, I said, I don't know that I deserve it. I still don't, but I appreciate it because it's fun to see and have, and to people to call me Mr. Western, it means a whole lot to me. Listen, folks, I enjoyed being here. I appreciate you listening, and that's a thing I think any speaker will enjoy when he knows people are listening, and you were listening, and I appreciate that, and I'm glad to be here. I love all of you. I wish you well.
Well, Mr. Robertson, we have a few tokens of our appreciation, too. I'm not sure we can compete with the 500 people the other night and honoring banquet halls in your name and stuff, but it's just amazing to hear you rattle off dates when I can't even remember what I did last week. And you're sitting there going 80 years ago telling me when.
Neither can I remember what I did.
Well, you remember what you did in the 40s. That's amazing. So at this time, Patty, I'll let you. We have a presentation from Quilts of Valor, too. And so I don't know whichever way you want to take it. And I think Bud's here to take some pictures also. So.
Yes, thank you so much for that. Do you see what I mean? How often can anybody hold 500 people in the palm of their hand? But he did that last week at the birthday party, and it amazes me. The one thing I learned at the birthday party last week is I really did not know Lee Robertson had retired. Now I do, at 1985, but you'd never know it. You would never know it. And Mr. Robertson, distinguished veteran, my friend, it is my honor to present to you the challenge coin. This is something that members of the Veterans Military Affairs and Police Protection Committee can give to distinguished veterans like yourself in honor of the great work that you've done. And it is my deepest honor to give this to you today.
appreciate it. I appreciate you too. I appreciate you as a representative and as a professor at Western. You've excelled in both of them.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We have one more. This is Marianne Birch, and I will let her introduce herself.
Thank you. I'm Mary Ann Birch. I'm with the Capital City Quilt of Valor group. We've just formed in the last 6 months, but we're honored to present a certificate to Mr. Robertson on behalf of our group. And we also want to wrap you with this quilt, which is made for you.
Well, I've heard of blanket parties, and this is this is a quilt party. Thank you, man.
If I could tell you just a little bit about the Quilt of Valor Foundation, it began in 2003.
Marianne, would you care to try to get that microphone a little closer?
Sure.
Thank
Is
you.
this better? Yeah.
That is, yes, ma'am.
Quilt of Valor Foundation began in 2003 when Catherine Roberts, the mother of a deployed soldier, experienced a dream in which she saw a young soldier alone in the dark, foreboding room, overcome with despair. Then in a subsequent vision, that same soldier was wrapped in a quilt. The room was calm and tranquil, void of the war demons. Catherine determined in that moment that quilts equal comfort and healing. She knew what to do. She gathered friends and family, and they began making quilts for returning soldiers. That was the beginning of what is now the Quilts of Valor Foundation. The first Quilt of Valor was awarded at Walter Reed Army Medical Center in Maryland in 2003. From that day until now, the Quilt of Valor Foundation quilters have awarded over 313,000 quilts of valor. A Quilt of Valor is an award, it's not a gift. Quilter of Valor is an expression of gratitude for his or her service to our country, and we hope that it will become a legacy in your family of the sacrifices that you endured during your time in service of our country. It's my privilege and honor to give you this quilt. That's
Thank
the best
you.
present, isn't it?
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thanks for including us.
It is my
I appreciate it, and I'll abide by your wishes.
Thank you, sir. You snuggle up under it and use it.
Yeah.
okay.
100 degrees together today. I
don't know.
I wait till winter to use it.
Exactly.
Sir, hold one more spot. Come on up, and I think we got one more thing or two more things right behind you, too. This was a surprise. Didn't know about this until this morning either.
Take this off.
It's good to see you again.
Yes, let me get that off real quick.
Let me get.
Make sure that mic's on if you could. Is the green button on?
That is nice looking.
Isn't it?
That'll work.
Good quilt, isn't it? Give that to my son. That's my son Steve getting that. He'll get under it when winter comes.
Mr. Western, we spoke when you first came in, and after sitting and listening to you, not only am I humbled to be here to present what I'm going to present to you, but I want to be you when I grow up. And I told him, I said, he's in such amazing shape, and I'm much better than I am, and I'm only 22, so he's. But on behalf of the Kentucky Department of Veterans Affairs, on behalf of Commissioner Whitney Allen and every veteran in this Commonwealth, it's a true pleasure to present you first a certificate, and I just want to read a caption here. It's in recognition of your centennial milestone and being a member of the greatest generation. The Kentucky Department of Veterans Affairs presents this certificate as a token of our appreciation and respect. Thank you so much for your service. We appreciate it, and
Thank
it's
you
a
for
pleasure.
this. That's mighty nice.
I'm
I'll
gonna-
say that again, like I've said before. I don't know that I earned it, but I appreciate
You
it.
absolutely earned it, sir. And on behalf of Governor Beshear, there's a challenge coin, and I know that he would have loved to have been here, but that's in thanks for the service to this Commonwealth and this great nation as well.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Now, I've been at a lot of challenge coins presentations, but I've never seen anybody get three in one setting before. So the committee presented one. That's presented on behalf of Governor Beshear. And then on behalf of the Kentucky Department of Veterans Affairs, there's a third challenge coin that we hope you treasure And I know that we'll all treasure the memories of sitting and listening and being a small part of what you shared with us today. So thank you so much for your service.
Well, I tell you what, I've got a little glass frame that's hung on and there's enough space in there for these.
Well, we're glad that there's enough space, and here's a personal card on behalf of the commissioner that I'll lay there, and then you can open that up later. It's an honor and a pleasure, sir. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you
Appreciate
very
it.
much.
Take care of yourself.
Okay.